Happy Tuesday, everyone. Hurricane Erin continues to grow and is beginning to slow down and make the turn parallel to the eastern seaboard. She could become a major hurricane again here tonight or tomorrow. We may be dealing with two more named storms in the next week over the deep tropics. I'll talk about both in today's video. And if you are a subscriber, welcome back. If you're a new subscriber, I appreciate you joining me here. Feel free to invite your friends back. And if you're watching for the first or second time, I urge you to become a subscriber as well. Just click the button right below to get more frequent updates from me here on a daily basis. Here's a look at the current Hurricane Center forecast map. This is put together by Tomer Berg, and you can see Hurricane Erin down to a Category 2 storm. Don't let that deceive you, though. It's a very large system that will continue to grow. And I do think there will be an opportunity for the system to try to reorganize some as the wind shear expects to drop off a little bit here tonight and tomorrow, giving the chance for the system to regain some of that intensity. Behind it, there are two areas that we're tracking. One over the central Atlantic, which does have a 60% chance of becoming a tropical depression or storm over the next 7 days. In my opinion, it's probably going to be this weekend when it gets to the north of the islands, very close to where Erin was, when it tries to form into a tropical cyclone. And another area behind it, which just came off the African coast, looking healthy today, but does have a bit of a rough ride ahead of it. Until these systems fully die, though, we are going to talk about them because, as you all know, a lot can change in just a few days here in the tropics. Very first, we're going to take a look at the track of Erin, and folks are asking when it's going to make the turn. Well, the system has slowed down, so it is still wobbling some, but the forecast track takes it about 200 miles at its nearest point to the Outer Banks, Cape Hatteras here. And the timeline on that's going to be on Thursday as the storm is slowing down substantially. Now, if the storm does find a way to wobble to the left of the track, it is possible it could come to within about 135 miles of the coast. It's also possible it could go a little farther away at 285. So there's some uncertainty, but because the system is expected to grow here, it will be bringing a large area of impact to the East Coast, especially North Carolina and Virginia over the coming days. We do have a tropical storm warning now issued. Some of the Outer Banks were already in it, but more of North Carolina is in that. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And a tropical storm watch, which includes Virginia Beach. And on the island of Bermuda, because of the size of the storm expected as it begins to make that turn to your northwest, we do now have a tropical storm watch as well. So the good news about Erin is that it is managing to avoid any direct landfall throughout the life of its track across the Atlantic. The bad news is that it's getting bigger, so we are still going to have a lot of impact in areas near the coast. Here's a wider look at that view, and you can see the areas under tropical storm warning. As of 5 p.m. this evening, the storm had winds of 105 miles per hour, continuing to bend a little bit more to the right as our motion is now north-northwest at 10 miles per hour, and it could slow down just a little bit more here later on tonight. The center is located at 26.6 north and 72.7 west. That's a few hundred miles to the northeast of the central Bahamas, about 400, 500 miles east of Miami, Florida, and about 400 to 500 miles southwest of Bermuda. That's where the center is located. It's a big storm, so the winds are continuing to expand here. Here's a look at the forecast track line as well for you to be able to see where that bend happens. It'll probably reach its farthest west point here sometime tomorrow afternoon. Somewhere around 74 degrees west. There's a possibility it may try to get closer to 75. But the good news is that the East Coast of the United States, the way it's shaped, South Florida is at 80. The Outer Banks are at 76 to 77. Long Island's at 74, but this system will be turning away well before then. And it's expected to track to the south of Atlantic Canada as well as we get to the weekend. Here's a look at the storm, and you can see it definitely went through a phase of some weakening, but is beginning to make a comeback here. It's a big, big system here. This is North Carolina right here. Bermuda is right here. The Bahamas are here. The Turks and Caicos to the south and east. And the storm is beginning to grow again, especially on the northwestern side. For a while, it had some wind shear on the northwest side, which is beginning to get reduced here. And that's allowing the system to bounce back and grow more to the north and west. You can see that there's certainly growth on the northern and eastern side. We will start to see a little bit more growth here on the northwest side as the night wears on here. But in a spot here where it's got an upper level high pressure ridge centered near it, and that will help the storm get bigger and bigger. It's going to allow those thunderstorms to spread out over the upper portion of the atmosphere, and wind shear, while it has been out of the north and west here, is starting to reduce some. So that's really the main player on the map today in the tropics. We will talk about what's out there as well later on in this video. But the Bahamas are still getting some heavier showers and some gusty wind. You can still see some nasty weather over the Turks and Caicos down in here. But over the last few hours, we have noticed that this area of dry air that had gotten into the western side and weakened the wind is beginning to get pushed away by a growing cyclone again. So it went through a phase where it had a difficult night last night and difficult morning this morning, but now beginning to grow again. And you can see that here on the visible satellite. While the eye is filled with clouds, there is certainly a well-defined center right underneath the cloud canopy in here. And an important thing I want to point out is that the storm has slowed down. So it is churning up some cooler water because of that. A few days ago, it was moving about twice the speed that it is now. So it made its mess and then continued on and had no way of having repercussions. Today, it's taking its time, so that cooler water is going to start to catch up with it a little bit. But you know what? Looks like right here, we are still seeing a very healthy curling banding pattern off to the south and east. And the dry air on the western side, earlier in the satellite image, you can see is beginning to get replaced by more moisture now. So a temporary phase, in my opinion, of weakening. I think we're going to start to see things getting to the point where the system tries to grow and intensify, at least by another category. I don't think it'll be 2 categories. So very impressive system here. We do have another aircraft getting ready to head in. In fact, I believe it has already left, but we will get data here later on. It's at St. Croix, so it's got about an hour and a half before it can get to the center of the storm. So between 7 and 8 o'clock, we'll start to have an idea of what Erin is at now. But the earlier flight this afternoon, you could see the pressure, which got as low as 915 millibars on Saturday and got into the 930s yesterday, has come up quite a bit, indicating that the storm is not as strong near the center as it was before. But the pressure is equalized. It was at 960 millibars at last check. The forecast models indicate it will try to drop back into the 940s and possibly 930s. There are a couple of outliers that are worse than that. I don't think those will be the case, but we'll have to keep an eye on those as well. All right, I've already shown you these graphics. The trend of the model has continued to be on the western envelope here. You can see this is the actual track, and the ensemble guidance has continued to correct. It looks like that westward trend, though, has pretty much come to a stop. And because the system is actually slowing down, there's an area of high pressure over the north central Atlantic. It's basically going right around the periphery of that ridge. And a couple days ago, the models expected the ridge would be over here. It's ended up a little bit farther to the west. And that has led to a more severe turn out to sea. The good news is, though, you can see the trend here from a couple of days ago, this coming close enough to Newfoundland and now backing away and going more into the open waters is certainly reducing the risk of some really nasty weather over Newfoundland. The model tracks are all in pretty good agreement up through 96 hours. Then they begin to spread. At that point, the system will be long gone. It will no longer be a fully tropical system. It'll just be a big, nasty storm affecting boats and fish over the northern Atlantic Ocean. The ensembles are also all well behaved. Nothing showing any landfall in the U.S. We do have a couple of models that are closer than the ensemble mean that we need to watch, because obviously the closer things get to the coast, the worse the wind and the wave action could be. You can see several of our models are going back to category 3 here, almost half of them in about 24 hours or so. So the system is still in warm enough water that even though it's weakened, it has maybe one more burst of intensification in it. Now, National Hurricane Center has officially kept this as a high category 2. It does not at this point forecast a category 3, but I think they may want to reconsider based on what aircraft find tonight. It's possible, though, that strengthening phase may not start until later on in the night tonight or even between aircraft fixes at this point. And you can see the ships indicates that that will happen. Probably not rapid intensification. The odds of it going to category 4 are about 11% or less. That's not a 0% chance, but it's not a very high chance. But, you know, this storm has shown resilience, so it very well could find a way to overachieve once again for maybe one more burst. And if it does so, in my opinion, it's going to be in this area here as it's passing to its closest approach with South Carolina and maybe with Cape Fear. later tomorrow into tomorrow night. Eventually, it has to weaken over the cooler water, but I wonder if it's going to try to stay stronger a little bit longer despite that dry air in the atmosphere to the north and west of it. You can see here, wind shear does stay fairly low for a couple more days. It's coming down almost to zero here, which is kind of scary if you think about it. The relative humidity is coming up a little bit. Once we get to 48 hours and that system is halfway between Cape Cod and Bermuda, though, things should go down in a hurry, and we should see gradual weakening of the system. Here's a look at what it's going to look like here. You can see the size is expected to grow. Tropical storm force winds are expected now on the Outer Banks. A lot of damaging surf expected. We're probably going to see wind speeds in the 40 to 60 mile per hour range in the Outer Banks, in particular around Hatteras. It's possible Ocracoke could see some of that. Farther north and west, those odds of seeing those stronger winds are less likely. But you can see that GFS shows a pretty modest amount of strengthening here and a growing wind field as well. And eventually, this is Nova Scotia here, by the way. Eventually, it's just staying between all the land masses. It's just not really hitting anybody directly, but is growing quite a bit in size. And I've talked about that for several days here. Not a lot has changed there in that. Here's a look at what our waves are going to be at their highest hitting the coast here. It looks like Thursday. We may see wave heights of 20 to 30 feet just offshore the Outer Banks. Significant wave heights all the way up to the Jersey Shore, up to Long Island. We could see waves that are 8 to 12 feet, and that will cause coastal flooding for sure. Even on the northeastern Florida coast, waves could hit at 8 to 10 feet. So a substantial amount of wind and surf action here. Over water, we could see wave heights over 50 feet. So obviously not sending a boat or a cruise ship in there would be a smart idea. But it is a powerful storm and one of the biggest ones we've seen out over the Western Atlantic in recent years. Maybe not the strongest, but one of the biggest over recent years. Here's a look at the storm surge forecast. This has not really changed since yesterday. We're primarily looking at the worst surge between Cape Lookout and Duck. We may see up to 4 feet of storm surge there, and a high tide is going to certainly enhance that somewhat. As far as rainfall amounts here, we are not expecting significant amounts of rain for any inland areas associated with Erin. There were heavy rains earlier in the eastern shore of Virginia. That was due to a stalled frontal boundary, and that's something to keep in mind here, but it looks like the bulk of this rain is going to stay offshore. I do think we'll get some in Hatteras, but I don't think we're talking anywhere close to an inch at this point. So that's really it on Erin. I'll keep you updated here on what happens between my video today and my video tomorrow with any changes in the intensification. We are tracking 2 more systems out over the open Atlantic. This is area number 1. 60% chance of developing, but it does not look like it's in a hurry to do that. There's actually a fair amount of southerly shear here that's keeping that system at bay. Most of the thunderstorm activity is aimed at South America, Trinidad and Tobago. So get ready for wet weather in here on Thursday and Friday. But the area that would potentially develop is actually the northern portion of the wave that is expected to go west-northwest at a very similar track to what we saw with Erin a few days ago. And there's another one behind it that is now officially an area of investigation, Invest 99L. The odds of that becoming a tropical storm, believe it or not, are less, but they're high enough where I think this one could snag the F name over that one getting the G name. Just looking at the structure of the 2 systems today, this one could end up being Fernand. I expected this one to be the one that got that edge, but now I'm not feeling quite as good about that prediction. There's another wave as well that's going to follow here. And, you know, we might have room for an H storm at some point. That's getting a little bit far out. This system potentially is another 6 or 7 days from the Caribbean islands. This one here is about 3 to 4 days away. This one here is going to be 9 to 11 days away. So there's still quite a bit of time to watch all of these. I'm going to show you what the upper atmosphere looks like here, just so you can get an idea of why things are struggling. There's a lot of dry air in between Erin and these 2 waves that are coming off. There's an upper level low here, but it's pretty tiny. There's another upper level low here and a big subtropical ridge here, bringing in some more stable air from the north. Right now, this system is at a low enough latitude where it's not really feeling the wind shear or the upper level low. It's kind of its own entity, and it's bringing heavy rain to the Cabo Verdes, which got hit pretty hard here by what would be Erin about a week and a half ago. This wave over here, it's just doesn't look that great to me. And as a result, I think it's going to be less and less of a threat to the United States over time, which is, I hope, the news you came here to hear today. Here's a look at our tropical cyclone forecast. And you can see, obviously, we have Erin here. This is a non-tropical feature. And then here would be our next two systems with a decent chance of developing. This is Friday. Take it as Saturday. And you can see the second system, as good as it looks now, the odds of it becoming something in the next couple of days begins to decrease, whereas it begins to increase with this system. So they're moving in two different trends. You can see over time, this system is now looking more and more likely to recurve. You'll want to watch it in Bermuda because you could have another system. This system, on the other hand, is going to stay low, and it may interact with South America, but eventually it's something we may have to keep an eye on in the Northwest Caribbean and in the Gulf. But right now, no huge threats to the eastern seaboard once Erin moves away. That is the news that I am happy to say with you. But we are still we're still kind of in the beginning stages of the active part of the hurricane season. So trust me, there will be more coming off of Africa in the coming weeks. Here's a look at our ensembles behind Erin here, which takes up so much of this map. It's a little tough to track what's behind it, but you can see here our next feature does try to develop north of Puerto Rico, but it's already on its turn to the north and west. A few days ago, there were several other ensembles that were bringing this closer to Florida or the Bahamas. They have now shifted east. So if it does become a tropical storm, it should be a fish storm, but we do have to keep an eye on it in Bermuda. There are a lot of different ways this can play out until it forms. We're not going to know for sure. But you can see here, by and large, it's likely to be recurving around an area of high pressure over the central subtropical Atlantic. So that's probably not going to be really a big deal, but there are a few ensembles that do strengthen this into a hurricane. When it gets south and east of Bermuda, it will be over pretty warm water. It's not going to be over the overturned, cooler, churned water left behind by Erin, which would be the water down in here. So it does have a chance down the road, but I don't think it's got a great chance in the next couple of days. The following area, 99L here, is taking a southern track, and models are not looking really that optimistic at holding on to it for a whole lot longer here. It looks great now, but it's going to reach the big leagues here and suffer tremendously, it looks like. However, we don't ever write off a wave until it has moved off into Central America and then beyond or died. And you can see this could become a zombie system that tries to maybe redevelop by the time it gets near south and west of Jamaica. It's possible it could try to find a way through Puerto Rico and head towards the Bahamas as well. This is the 28th and 29th, so we are talking 8 to 9 days away from today. A lot can change in 8 to 9 days. But just to keep in mind, down the road, there are some ensembles that do bring this into the Gulf. And at that point, it is certainly a guessing game. So we're going to keep an eye on that for you. Here is that disturbance passing by south and west of the Cabo Verdes Islands, and looks pretty, but there isn't really a well-defined circulation at this point. You can see the visible image before we lost our source of light here. You could see some banding feature, but very broad circulation, meaning it could be a tropical depression, but we don't have any way of measuring it. But right now, it just remains an invest. It is over slightly warmer water than the last system. Erin moved up into this cooler water here. This system's tracking over slightly warmer water, but there are other factors in play as well. There's wind shear. There's going to be some dry air. And you will see this system is going to lose latitude, unlike Erin a few days ago. So until it's completely gone, we need to just keep a close eye on it. The GFS ensembles are all over the place, but in general, the track goes all the way down to about 10 degrees north and then begins to gain some latitude again. That would bring it closer to the Windward Islands, anywhere from Trinidad and Tobago all the way up to maybe Guadeloupe and perhaps even into the Netherlands Antilles. Again, we've got a long way to go before that happens. The ship's model was trying to make this a hurricane. Now it's backed off and keeping the intensity fairly low. And here's a big reason why. It's this wind shear that awaits a storm when it gets out into here. It may try to become a brief storm, then it's probably going to hit the deck, and it's going to take several more days before it could try to make a comeback. And at that point, we just don't know how things are going to play out. Here again is the GFS ensembles all over the place, but nothing strong at this point. Intensity forecast, again, this is until it forms, we just don't really know, but it's for the most part, pretty weak. The majority of our models keep it down below tropical storm intensity. Here's a look at the SpaghettiOs from the GFS. I don't know about you, but I'm getting hungry, so I want some SpaghettiOs for dinner. But you can see here is our next system to watch north of Puerto Rico here later this weekend. And our wave down here is already basically bit the dust. There's just not a lot of support for it. So we watch this system here. The GFS is a little closer to the East Coast than we would like. The European is nearer to the east of Bermuda. So there's going to be a lot of spread here beyond 7 or 8 days. But we may see a comeback system in the Gulf, or we may not. So we'll keep an eye on that one for you here. Here's the European ensemble. You can see the recurve here. There's certainly still some spread, though, before that happens. So we don't know for sure if it's going to follow Erin or if it's going to be much farther east, but it may have a chance when it gets into the areas east of Bermuda to become a stronger system. And then the next wave is just not even here. It's kaput. It's totally gone. It looks great today, but isn't going to last much longer here in a few days. But over time, again, the skeleton of that wave takes it towards Central America or into the Caribbean. And there's a possibility, albeit a slim one, that this could be something to watch in the Gulf as we get to Labor Day weekend. Here it is again. Invest 99L, not looking so great. That wind shear is going to be extremely hostile to it. I do want to take you back here. This, by the way, is the Google DeepMind AI forecast model. I do want to take you to the European ensemble here, and we're going to zoom in on this. And you will see the European ensemble agrees that this system is not going to directly hit the islands. In fact, turning to the north does have the possibility of becoming a stronger system. But again, neither of these systems is looking quite as impressive as what they looked like here a couple days ago. Here's a HAVS model. This is a tropical model that's actually being run on this disturbance. And you see the pressure rising by the time we get to Thursday. That indicates a weakening system. Over time, it's there, but it's getting sheared. There's not a great closed off circulation. I like this this parent view because it actually will show you the one ahead of it, which does look like over time will be a better system. But neither of these has really any kind of strong wind with it. I mean, we're talking tropical depression intensity at the worst. Maybe we get a tropical storm up in here by Sunday. But again, that's a huge maybe at this point. And the GFS, I'm going to show you the latest run here real quick. After Erin, of course, you can see it no longer develops the system. A few days ago, it had it coming up into the Gulf or coming up Florida, North Carolina. Now it is certainly downtrending with that. The next wave, though, something to watch here. This is weekend after this one. Goes towards the Yucatan and then into the Southern Gulf. And we're going to have to watch fronts coming down. We're going to have to watch all kinds of stuff. Interestingly, the run earlier did pull this northward a little bit more, giving the folks in Texas a much closer view of it. But again, when we're looking at 15 days of forecast models, you can see how the trend model after run is pushing it farther south and west over time. If that trend reverses, then I'll get a little bit more concerned. But right now, the trend indicates that this system's going to struggle. And if it does get its act together, right now it's not looking like it's going to be an immediate U.S. threat. We can't say that for sure, but that's what the trend looks like at this point. So I'm going to wrap it up here with a quick word of God for the people of God. I am a Christian man. I end my videos with giving God all the honor and glory. Without him, I wouldn't be here. Neither would you. He's given me this gift of being able to share weather forecasts with you, analyzing things, getting very scientific. But at the end of the day, as a Christian, I'm called to share the word of God with others, whether or not they choose to believe that. Mark 10:27, but Jesus looked at them and said, with men, it is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. And this is salvation that he's referring to. All things are possible. If you choose to follow God, you will be saved. You will be wiped clean of your sins by following Jesus Christ, the Son of Man. That's why all things are possible, because of what has been done for us. It's nothing we've done, but we have the option to choose to believe. And then God will work through us to provide us with that option of where to spend eternity in heaven with him and his son, Jesus. So I appreciate your time today. I'll be back again tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening.